Hey, greetings to everybody who's already online. Thanks for being here. I'm Kate, Communications and Outreach Coordinator for the Natural Areas Association. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We want to give people a couple minutes to log on, catch up. So this is Site Management Tool for Natural Areas Managers, Intro to TerraTrak with Brian Knowles, founder and managing partner of the Sitka Technology Group, and Steve Rentmeester, Senior Product Owner. We're going to get started very soon, but while we're waiting for people to log on, I really love hearing from you guys where you're from, where you're logging on from, what natural areas you're attached to, that sort of thing. So get some exercise using the chat function and let me know where you're logging in from. We're here in Ligonier, PA, by the way. Argentina, wow. I love seeing people from far away. That's wonderful. Miami, Florida. Springfield, Oregon. We're covering the whole United States here. Baltimore, Denver. We're going to be in your neighborhood, Denver, really quick here for the conference. Portland, Tallahassee, Mount Cuba Center, Burlington, Kentucky. Ooh, thank you. 4 staff from the Arkansas Natural Heritage Commission. It's good to see you guys here from Arkansas. Always good to see you, Arkansas. Newark, Ohio, Hawaii. Thank you for being here, Chris. Broward County, Florida, Indiana, fabulous. We're covering a lot of bases here. San Diego, I bet it's beautiful there right now. Great, thank you so much for everybody being here. I think we're right at 12, so let's do this. Welcome to Site Management Tool for Natural Areas Managers, Intro to TerraTrak, as I said, with Brian Knowles, founder and managing partner of Sitka Technology Group, and Steve Rentmeester, the senior product owner. We're so pleased to have them today, have them use some of their time to be with us today and talk to you guys about TerraTrak. Before we turn to the presentation, I want to remind you that this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel within about 24 hours after the conference. So let me share my screen. Okay. Okay. Some housekeeping, please use the chat function that you guys are already familiar with to ask questions. Brian and Steve have said they're going to wait till the end of the presentation to answer questions, but you can enter them at any time. They'll be able to see them, and they can catch up with them at the end. A few important points about our webinar series, our journal, some other things you might be interested in. Webinars are our continuing commitment to bring the latest and most relevant information to our members and our non-members. This happens to be a presentation that's accessible to everybody. In the near future, we're going to launch both public and only for members webinars. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about joining, if you are. We're going to have some future webinars about advocacy for natural areas professionals, more on national native seed strategy, pollinators. If you're interested in pollinators, we still have our special edition of Managing for Pollinators on Natural Areas. You can get that on our conference on our regular website. And our conference is going to feature a pollinator symposium focused on best management practices. And also, I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but we have a call for papers. We're open up for submissions to a journal special issue on land stewardship from a water resource perspective. You can find out more about that on our website as well. Our upcoming webinar, we're really proud to be able to offer you from bird's eye to grassroots, implementing the national seed strategy, national, regional, and local perspectives. And we've got a speaker from Bureau of Land Management. Many of you know Peggy, Dirk from the U.S. Forest Service, and Sarah Culpa from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So that is coming up on September 13th. Make sure you keep your eyes out for that. All right, a little bit about who we are. And many of you are already familiar with us, many of you through the journal, but we're a community of professionals who come together to find solutions to our shared challenges. We've been working to support natural areas professionals for more than 40 years. So we've been around a while. We are the only national nonprofit membership organization that dedicated to support and advancement of the community of natural areas professionals. We're it. That's our mission. That's our only mission. We're here for people like you. Our members include anyone who works to protect or restore natural areas. People like natural lands managers, land trust staff, volunteers, biologists, researchers, policy specialists, educators. You get the picture. With an interest in environmental conservation. Many of you already know us through the journal, which I mentioned earlier, which is our quarterly peer-reviewed journal for scientists and natural areas professionals to share their research. A journal subscription comes free with your membership. We also hold the Natural Areas Conference annually, which is the premier gathering of natural areas professionals. And this year it's in Fort Collins, Colorado. And more about that in 1 second if you haven't already found some information about it. We've been moving more into advocacy lately, so expect to hear more news from us on that. We emphasize collaboration and information sharing, so we maintain strategic partnerships with federal and state land managers, private conservation organizations, and universities in all of our work. So we invite you to become a member if you're not already. It's really easy. You go to our website. It's cheap. It's basically a fancy coffee per month. It's a good deal. So if you're not already a member, think about it. We want to thank the Bureau of Land Management for supplying the funding for this webinar series. We could not do this without them. So we thank them for that. And last but not least, early bird registration is open for the 2017 conference. We got a lot of people so far. We're going to get a lot more, I think. We've got some amazing field workshops to the surrounding natural areas, which, as you might imagine, are spectacular. You can see people who are participating in our opening plenary and our closing plenary, which is a bunch of case studies on the role of smaller natural areas and the role they play in protecting land. And that panel discussion is going to be moderated by Greg Aplett, who's the Senior Science Director of the Wilderness Society. So we're really happy to have all these people. If you want more information about the conference, you can either go to our website or you can go to our conference website, which is naturalareasconference.org. Don't wait if you want to come right now. The early bird registration is the best deal. So see you there, hopefully. And with that, I think that we are going to turn it over to Brian and Steve. So.
Well, thanks, Kate, and thanks for hosting today, giving us an opportunity to share this information with a lot of folks out there across the world. Today, we're going to explore the challenges of managing data for natural areas. We'll also cover a software platform we've built that helps practitioners streamline site management. To start, we'd like to ask you all to complete a quick poll about how you manage your natural areas data today. While you're working on that, I'll run through the agenda and go through introductions. So hopefully you can see the poll up on your screen. If you would just take a few minutes to share some information about yourselves and how you relate to information today, that'd be very helpful. We'll review it in a few slides here. It's
just 3 questions, so yep, here we go. Wonderful.
Excellent. So once we review the poll results, we'll jump into why data management matters. We'll also go through a brief history of TerraTrak and how it came into existence. Then we'll have Steve jump into an online demo of the platform. And then finally, we'll end up with reserve some time for questions and answers. So go ahead and type in your questions as we go, but we'll address them all at the end of the session here. Quickly introducing ourselves, I'm Brian Knowles, Sitka co-founder and managing partner. I lead the TerraTrak development team and also the team developing the conservation planning platform called Marathi. With me is Steve Rentmeester, the product owner for TerraTrak, He works closely with our clients to ensure that the platform meets their needs.
Hi, Steve Rentmeester here. Good
Hi,
morning.
Steve. Sitka has worked with many natural resource management programs like the ones here in our 8-year history. We're passionate about giving natural resource professionals exceptional software tools that help them get their critically important and complex work done. Over time, we have started to see common patterns in data management practices, and we'll see how that lines up with folks on the call today. Kate, how are we looking on responses there on the poll?
We've got 88% of you have voted. I'm going to give you, how about we give it just 10 more seconds. Plug in some information if you've a mind to. We have almost everybody who's voted, but we'd love to see everybody contribute if they have, if they're interested in doing so. Okay. All right, you can see the answers, Brian?
Let's see. No, I'm still seeing the questions.
Okay, let me end the polling, and I think we should be able to all see the answers.
Great.
Okay. Here, can you see that? Oh, share results. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, newbie. There we go.
All right. Oh, jumped ahead of my slides. Okay. First question was, what tools do you use to manage your project data? Should be a lot of Excel, a lot of ArcGIS, access databases. A few people use web applications, and good set of people use paper and memory. Do you have access to the data you need to effectively make decisions? Somewhat wins the day here. There's a few yeses, but yeah, people aren't getting all the data that they need, apparently. How efficiently can you report the results of your work? Somewhat easy. Folks are doing pretty well there. A lot of people see that it's difficult as well, though. So I think hopefully we have information that folks can use today to help them here with reporting. So let me go ahead and close this. Comparing this to polls that we've done, I'll go ahead and pull up one from 2013. So the quick take of this 2013 survey is that data management is very important. Most folks use general purpose tools like Excel and ArcGIS. We saw that here in our results today. Those tools don't meet needs very well. And most concerning, often important data is lost. Over 50% have experiences with loss of data. So our conclusion from this is that it's not really a great picture for data management for tracking our important natural areas. That's why we are doing what we're doing, trying to help people out here. To drive this point home, let's walk through a scenario from the beginning. Here we are, Smith Farms has reached out to our program with a proposed donation of their northeast parcel. They've done well the past 2 decades, but they can't make good use of the wetlands by the creek. Plus, they've long been concerned about the health of salmon runs in the watershed. At this point, our legal team gets involved as they handle all of our acquisitions. Due diligence proceeds, and pretty soon all the details are settled. Everything is pulled together and an agreement is executed with Smith Farms. I'm sure this is a scenario we're all familiar with here on the call. During the closing of the acquisition, our conservation scientist has begun reviewing the viability of habitat in the vicinity. The great news is that Cedar Creek is a salmon stronghold subbasin, and the property is in prime rearing habitat. A conservation plan is developed, and the habitat features are mapped. and we start to identify the opportunities connected to this site. Our program director confers with the oversight committee, and they decide to create a new target area centered on the donated property. They also set aside funds to pursue other acquisitions in this target area. This information is added to that from the prior activities. Again, our legal team is called in, and they quickly put a deal in place for acquisition A and a neighboring access easement. During the next year, they're able to close acquisition B and enter into a critical conservation easement upstream from the donated property. All of the paperwork from these transactions taken together could fill a file box full. We've got acquisition documents with all the due diligence, all the neighbor communications, all the legal papers, and the easement agreements. With a significant set of holdings, our land manager now gets involved. The first step is to combine all of the separate properties into the Cedar Creek management site and map the habitat features, upland forest, riparian, and woodland areas. He pulls together a management plan, including tasks such as invasive control, planting, and road maintenance. A schedule over the next 5 years is built, and an overall budget to ensure this critical habitat is maximized. At this point, our land management team goes to work, starting with a few key work efforts. To scale out our efforts, we hire a few contractors, and they begin doing work efforts as well. Each work effort results in information that will help inform future management actions. Finally, we need our finance lead to track the boring but important stuff like contracts, spending, and performance metrics. With all this activity, we've built up quite the collection of information, and just for this one site. How do we manage it all? What we usually see is a varied collection of documents, spreadsheets, shape files, and paper stored in various locations. A lot of information is also stored in people's heads. I'm sure each of you have had to go consult a site oracle in your career. Maybe you are the site oracle. In my experience, this is where we see the greater than 50% of practitioners experiencing data loss. Now, with all our site information spread across many storage locations, we've been given a quarterly reporting task. Rob, our land management team lead, takes on the task and reaches out to project managers and finance to help gather the info required. In turn, each of them needs to go track down the data in the various sources. Hopefully, the site oracle isn't on vacation. After collecting the data across all sites, not just for our new Cedar Creek site, Rob summarizes this information from the team and copies it into a tracking spreadsheet. He creates the status map and finalizes the report. Now he, more than anyone, understands what's happening on the ground. Unfortunately, this has to be repeated every quarter, and it takes time away from developing and implementing management plans. Additionally, this represents a significant level of our institutional knowledge, and knowledge about the lands we manage is a key asset to what we're doing as an organization. What happens when Rob retires and heads off to join Chris Miller out in Hawaii? We think we've learned a lot from similar situations and can address many of the challenges with the centralized database solution. TerraTrak is an enterprise-level conservation management platform for managing and tracking green infrastructure assets, such as parks, open spaces, trails, constructed wetlands, wildlife corridors, and other natural habitats. TerraTrak allows you to sustain change over time. As we all know, meaningful outcomes may take many years, if not decades, to be realized. Connecting actions to assets, this diagram illustrates how you can leverage TerraTrak-driven workflows that help you stay on top of critical actions for your green assets. These actions can include acquisition, assessment and inventory, planning and prescription, treat and restore, monitor and measure. Successful stewardship requires multiple types of actions applied effectively in concert over time to achieve your overall goal. As you see on the slide, the key benefits of the platform are streamlining, aligning, increasing visibility, and enabling sharing. As mentioned, TerraTrak was originally built for Oregon Metro. They are the originators of the best practices built into the system. Metro tracks over 500 acquisitions, 190 sites, 700 projects, and 4,000 plus on-the-ground actions using TerraTrak. Clean Water Services has been able to leverage the best practices and investment in TerraTrak to streamline their operations. Their unique program has used TerraTrak to manage the planting of over 4.5 million plants since 2015. TerraTrak began in 2010 when Metro hired Sitka to conduct a data diagnostic on their natural areas program data. They prioritized getting their arms around the acquisition data, which was sitting in a bunch of file cabinets and across multiple access databases. In 2011, we rolled that module out. And then in 2012, they rolled out the site management module. In 2013, they started tracking detailed work efforts and on-the-ground work and working with their contractors. And then in 2014, we were able to onboard Clean Water Services onto the platform, and they built the module to help them manage all the planting that they do. Metro also developed a budgeting module at that time. In 2015, Metro was able to utilize the work done by Clean Water Services, and they deployed their own material management module and configured it to their workflows. And in 2016, Metro added reporting metrics to track project outcomes. And Clean Water Services adopted the site management module and configured it for their purposes. And in 2017, this year, Clean Water Services adopted the budgeting capabilities as well. Going forward, we hope to onboard one or more organizations in the next year who can take advantage of these modules that have been built up. We also hope that these other organizations can add new modules that others can take advantage of in the platform. With that, I'll send that control over to Steve, and he can start taking you through the application.
Steve, I want you to remember you're going to need to unmute yourself so that we can hear you.
Thank you, Catherine. I was on mute. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to walk through an online demo that describes the life of a site. It follows a similar storyline that Brian just shared with us in the overview. So here we are on an acquisition. So the ESTEP property was acquired to increase the acreage of the Coral Creek Natural Area and to increase habitat quality, wildlife connectivity. The ESTEP property is comprised of high-quality Willamette River upland habitat. As the acquisition manager, I'm ready to make the final closing on this property and approve the final closing. Before I do the final close, I'm going to take a look back at the last steps in the due diligence phase. Excuse me for a second, I'm not getting a lot of interaction with my screen. So while I'm waiting for my screen to respond, there it goes. Sorry, live demo. So I'm going to take a look at the title report, review the memos here. I might want to stop and look at the survey or the environmental review information. So just a chance for me to catch up on recent action on this acquisition before I go in and do my final closing. Here across the top is each of the phases of the acquisition, and I've been able to track this as staff have been working on it. In the closing, want to make sure that we've completed all the checklist items before we proceed. I want to look at the natural features, understand what kind of acreage are we acquiring, what's the type of property we're acquiring, and I want to look at some of the performance measures. So in acquiring this property, we believe we're going to have some water quality benefit, some habitat quality, we'll increase acreage and wildlife connectivity, as well as we have opportunities for public access and scenic views. So upon reviewing the acquisition, I'm feeling confident that we should go forward. So I'm going to go ahead and promote this. By promoting this, what we've done is finalize our closing phase of acquisition, and we're moving into the next phase, which is going to be actually trying to stabilize that property. So begin some conservation or stabilization work. All right, that is closed. We've moved into stabilization. And here, now that we've acquired that piece of property, we're going to go ahead and add it to the site. So the step property was this parcel here. We've now added to the overall Coral Creek natural area, which is right next to another natural area. So this is the Coral Creek natural area basically it was composed of two properties. One was the step property, and then another property here. So with the expansion of that property, we added a few additional staff to help us have a broader range of skill sets working on the project. We've also, as Brian had mentioned, we've also delineated these different habitat types. So in terms of the features on the property, we can keep track of both habitat features as well as the original properties that were acquired, and then the overall site. So with that property being transitioned into the site, we're able now to start talking about the work that we want to do that, and we can lay out different projects. We're going to do some work in the floodplain. We'll do a project in the upland. Well, we've got a hazard tree removal project we're going to undertake, and then generally invasive control throughout the site. So I'm going to go into this property here. This project is the Coral Creek Upland project. And a project is comprised of many components. The first piece is just basic info. So what's the date range? What's the type of project? And a description of the project. So for this specific project, we'll be advancing restoration of the forested habitat. The site currently is heavily infested with weeds, English ivy, European holly. With a 2 to 3 year initiative, we'll suppress those weeds, and in conjunction, we'll underplant western cedar, vine maple, and other understory species. Our project manager will be leading that work, and then potentially collaborating with others in the agency. As Brian had mentioned in the overview, there's an opportunity to do some planning. So we've laid out stages of the project, as well as budgets across multiple years. This particular project, we've laid out 4 years of budgeting. the life of the project. We've noticed that organizations commonly aim to do a 5-year budget window, with the current year being obviously the most precise. So with that budget laid out, we can go ahead and get approved budgets. So division manager actually approving those budgets. And then our project manager can go out and lay out tasks. So for this site, we know a range of tasks that we want to complete. So for this site, we've been working on it for a while, so we have some completed tasks. 18 out of our 22 are completed. We've got some tasks that are in progress, as well as some tasks that are planned. So we've done a good job of laying out a plan to implement our conservation goals for the Coral Creek upland area. We've laid out a budget as well as a set of tasks, and we've got a project manager who's ready to run with that. That project manager will now actually start implementing work. So how do we implement work? So underneath the project, we have work efforts. Work efforts are a distinct set of tasks that are going to be completed by one organization, usually a contractor, possibly in-house. So it's a set of tasks. Commonly, these are sort of 3 to 6 month kind of work efforts. So here we are, we've got this work effort. This specifically, we're going to treat, I think this is a 3rd treatment on the English ivy sprouts, and address any herbivory on the cedars that we had planted previously, as well as identify any gaps. So there's been thinning, weed treatment, and planting that's already occurred at this site. We're going to go back in with a follow-up treatment to kind of address any remaining ivy, check in on our plantings, get some additional protection on those plants, cedars specifically, and then backfill, replant any mortality that we may have lost. So, and we'll be doing this work during the month of September, October, and November. We've decided to select Bloxham Consulting. They've been working on the project and they're quite familiar with that project. And Dale here will be leading that for us from Bloxham. So what task are we going to do? Well, let's go back, and we had planned these tasks already, so now it's time to go ahead and get them completed. We're going to do some understory planting. Sorry. We're going to add some tubes on to protect those cedars. We're going to do some additional planting, and we're going to do some maintenance, spraying. So let's add those 3 aspects. I'm sorry, that's not the right one. This is the right one. All right, so we've added our task. Go back and we can review the details of these tasks. So contractor, initially we estimated 30 hours. With some additional discussion, we realized that we probably don't need quite 30 hours, so we're going to drop that to 26 hours. And then recheck the mixture that we're going to be spraying. And if we've got any licensed applicators, you might see that I'm a little bit of a novice here in terms of mixing spray mixes. And we're going to be treating the English ivy and the English holly. So let's save that. We're going to install some blue tubes on those cedars. Again, contractor, we checked back in with contractor and he thought 120 was going to be more likely. So we're going to up that. Delivering material. And there's a we've learned that there's a mobilization cost associated with this task. So in order to get their vehicles up and running, they need a little bit of mobilization dollars. And my dates are off. This is a problem here. So let's go fix this date and get it to be within the window of when we're doing the work effort. So the task has to occur within the same window as the work effort. Alrighty. That'll get us all set up. Alrighty, so we've got an estimated $1,370. We've allocated dollars for that. We're a little high right now. So project manager is going to state that we're going to fund this work from this particular funding source or this particular account. Set that to 1370 to match the estimated work. So when we do pay for this work, it'll be charged against this funding source or this accounting code. Division manager had previously approved this work. So we've got approval to spend up to 1980 on this effort, even though we're expecting it only to be about 1370. And then one last approval by the division manager. So last opportunity for division manager to go ahead and review the task, review the costs, and make that approval. Now I want to point out one piece. This is a workflow for one organization where the project manager plans out the work and the division manager goes ahead and reviews that and approves it. One of our other organizations has a slightly different workflow. Excuse me. All right, sorry about that. So a different organization, they have that same workflow of identifying the task, but in their workflow, they have a peer reviewer. So this is a colleague, another project manager, who reviews the task, reviews the quantities, and kind of the approach overall. This maybe is a slightly more experienced project manager who might be mentoring, or it might just be an opportunity for a collaborator to kind of review that work. So for this organization, they've introduced this idea of a peer review on the set of tasks and the goals and how they're going to accomplish that. So that peer reviewer needs to approve before going on to that division manager approval. So just wanted to point that out as a alternate workflow. I'm going to go back to our site, back to our storyline. Here our division manager they're doing all the approval work, so they're going to go ahead and approve that. So we've done the basics, we've selected contractors, we've done our task and funding, we've got approval. We're now ready for contractor instructions. So we're going to generate a contractor instruction document. And this will be a PDF file that we can email off to that contractor, which will be the signal for that contractor that they're ready to go to work. Of course, each organization has their own format for what this document might look like. This is for one of our organizations, and it basically has gone through their legal review to say this is a appropriate work order for contractors where we have standing master agreements with. They can go ahead and begin work on on this and invoice us for this work. And like I said, other organization has a slightly different layout, slightly different legal requirements. They've added some legal language in there. So this document can vary from organization to organization. So we're going to go ahead and email this to the contractor. We'll email it today. Just as a reminder to ourselves of when we send that. And that'll be the indicator for the contractor to go ahead and begin work. Now they're off doing the work, completing the work. When they've finished, or at the end of each month, they'll send us an herbicide record to document how much herbicide they're using and where they're applying it, and under what environmental conditions. And then they'll send us monthly invoices. And in the invoice, we will document how many hours or how many tubes they've completed, what portion of the work they've completed, and what they're billing us for that month. So they can add multiple invoices. Some contractors will just wait and invoice at the end of the entire contract. Others will want to invoice monthly. Both are supported. As we progress, we'll be able to keep track of what was our estimated cost as well as our total cost. So here's our estimated, and then as we do the work, this will be a running total of the actual cost. Okay, so that's actually executing work and implementing our plan. In order to complete a large project, you may end up doing several. Here for this project, they've done 6 work efforts over the course of 3 years. Other projects may take 20 work efforts. And of course, this is done for each of the projects at the natural area. So how do you pull all that together? At the end, you want to understand what have we accomplished there. So there's a couple of different ways where we're able to report on these accomplishments. So project managers can track their metrics, their implementation metrics. So here for each habitat area, we can track how many areas we've planted. So here we've planted 5.3 acres out of the 6.9. Here we've planted all 6.7 out of 6.7. So how many acres have we planted? How many plants have we put in the ground for each of those sites? And then how much seed have we used? So for a planting project, these are relevant implementation metrics. If we were on a different type of project, say a tree removal, we would have different metrics that are relevant. So each type of project has relevant metrics, implementation metrics that are appropriate for that type of project. Another area where we are interested is how are we doing with the financial? So we get a overall report of how much was spent and how much we encumbered each year, and we can drill into any of those years and see what funding source do we use in order to spend when we completed that work. What was the funding source? And under each funding source, we can take a look at the specific work efforts or material requests. So lots of ability to kind of drill into the financial side as well. Okay. Another type of report we might be interested in an overview of all the work that was completed. So this is a summary across all the work efforts at that site. So here I've selected my Coral Creek Natural Area. I've said I want to create a pivot or an aggregate report by project type and by year. And then I want to know the estimated and the actual. So for each type of project, each fiscal year, what's our estimated cost and our actual cost. This report is based on all of the work efforts that were completed at that site. So this is across both the upland and the floodplain projects. And you can see those two projects being represented here. This is the tree and shrub planting in the upland, and then this is the stream restoration in the floodplain area. So just a summary on our financials. And then one other type of report that I want to show you. So what I'll say about this grid, so this ability to get detailed records about work efforts, filter them by a bunch of criteria, and then pivot that information. That functionality exists for our acquisitions, for our sites, for our projects, and our work efforts. So this is a kind of a generic reporting tool that allows you to query and answer the questions kind of in an ad hoc fashion as they arise. The other type of reporting that occurs, I'm going to jump over to a different client. So here I'm logged into the Metro instance. So Metro has some standard reports that they use quarterly, monthly. Those may support reporting out to constituents and stakeholders. They may support meeting with their advisory council. So these are some canned reports that we built specifically to address very specific needs. In this case, this is a trail report where we can see the overall master plan for trail acquisition in the region and sort of their progress along that overall vision. And they can drill into any one of these trails and get additional info. So there's two types of reporting in TerraTrak, both kind of the ad hoc query as you have questions arise, as well as standard canned reports that we've built to address a specific target audience and target question. With that, I'm going to conclude my presentation and turn it back over to Brian.
Great. Yeah, at this point, I wanted to go ahead and address the questions. So I've got a number of them here. Go ahead and read some of these out. Sorry, I just lost the list of the questions. Where did that go?
So there's a question about, can you explain or clarify how you work with clients on developing this platform for a given site or given organization? You sell the software and then the organization uses the tool and operate it for themselves, or do you oversee continual operation? Where is the data housed? Who can access and update it? Have you worked with any federal clients?
Okay, yeah. The platform is configured, so we work with each client to configure the platform, configure the workflows. So as Steve pointed out, there are differences in how organizations want to manage their workflows. And then each module that you want to deploy for organization is set up and configured. We find that while we're doing this, there's a need to pull forward historic data and do other data management tasks along with you to get the data set up properly to roll out the workflow to your team. The software is a software as a service platform, so it is a web platform that's hosted in the cloud, and the data is safe up in the and backed up. Access to the application is granted through role permissions. So you allow people to log in to your site or your organization's site, and then you assign them different roles. So as Steve was pointing out, there's different roles that people play, and you can configure the permissions for what they can do within the system based on the roles that they play on your team. And then also, yes, we do work with federal clients quite frequently, and we've met the high security standards there in the past and continue to do that. In fact, the auditors are here this week to go through how we're managing security for our systems. Hopefully, Jennifer, that covers all that you asked there. If you have any follow-ups, please let me know. Nathan asked, it seems great for project management and to keep records in one place. I currently use GIS for data management and don't see how this can replace GIS. Can this create reports, do analysis of activities, and display data in a map? Yeah, we don't want to replace GIS. That's not our goal. We want to work with GIS data. The ArcGIS toolset or open source tools like QGIS are powerful and great and produce a lot of good analyses. We simply want to be able to share data between those tools and within TerraTrak as well. And we do that in different ways. We have some imports of geospatial data. We have some exports of geospatial data that are available, and we often find that we work with our clients to add capabilities there as needed to integrate with their, say, Enterprise GIS system. Reports, I think you saw a little bit of that in what Steve demonstrated. And mapping of data, you can, of course, view maps throughout the system. We didn't show all the different places you can view maps, say summarizing all your sites, all your acquisitions, that kind of thing. But the trails map that we saw is an example of how maps are incorporated into the system. Again, we want to play nice with other systems and let you link off to other reporting tools or other mapping tools.
I'm gonna, Brian, if I could jump in on this one for a second.
Yeah.
So in the organizations we've worked with thus far, we've noticed a delegation of responsibility around curating geospatial information. So specifically, property boundaries that are part of an acquisition and site boundaries that comprise the site. That's typically managed and stewarded by the Enterprise GIS division. It's getting those boundaries correct has a lot of legal ramifications, and needing to have that in one central ownership for curating those boundaries. On the other hand, where work is completed, what are the polygons that represent weeds? What are the project boundaries? What are the habitat boundaries? The features within? Commonly, the project manager is the most knowledgeable about the inner workings of that site. And so we're able to support those project managers to manage those polygons, where the work is completed, where the weed treatments need to occur, what are the definitions of the project boundary or the habitat units. And as long as those polygons all respect the topography of the site, the topology of the site, then we can integrate those two GIS information and share back and forth. So I just wanted to be a little more clear about that. Back to you, Brian.
Great. So yeah, Nathan, hopefully that answers your question. Let us know if there's any follow-ups. Carrie asked, all the work efforts and reporting for us need to include staff time as well as consultants for budgeting both money and capacity. I don't see that yet. Yeah, so this is an often asked feature, Carrie. It's one that is on our roadmap to develop. Like I said, we're looking for organizations that need this capability to help us sponsor that work, to add it into the system. Clean Water Services and Metro primarily complete most of their work with contractors at the moment, so they're not as motivated to add that capability. The idea we have is to add a new type of work effort with a different workflow for internal types of work to track internal staff time. As far as scheduling, we do have schedule views so that staff can see when they're scheduled to do certain work and when work efforts need their attention. It's just a time management piece that we need to solve. Is it easy to import data such as soils and floodplain maps and create a series of maps? Yes, we can link in and have layers added into the system that you can use on your maps. That's quite a straightforward capability. To do that, we have a GDB import process that lets you update those frequently. Also on our roadmap, we're hoping to get to in the next year is to link off to ArcGIS Server or ArcGIS Online to link in online data. So Brian, how do you get your shapefiles into your maps? Just covered that. Hopefully that answers that question.
Can I jump in just?
Yeah,
in
go
terms
ahead.
of soils and floodplain maps, when I hear those layers specifically, I think of a spatial analysis of trying to, say, delineate polygons that represent certain soil characteristics and flood elevation characteristics. You know, if the goal of having that information is to be able to support geospatial analysis, you are much better working in ArcGIS because ArcGIS or other geospatial tools are really powerful for that kind of analysis. A web app like TerraTrak, if you're needing to view those in order to you know, plan your project or plan a work effort, then yes, we can definitely display those in. And a good example that I've seen is topographic contour lines. Here in the metro area, we've got very detailed contour lines, and so they're able to display those as a layer in the map, and that helps them to be able to draw polygons of where work is done. So just kind of want to draw that distinction between displaying in order to help visual understanding versus geospatial analysis that you'd want to do in a desktop GIS environment. Back to you, Brian.
Good. So I think that covers Brian's question. Hopefully Jennifer's question as well here, her clarification. And then Sarah asked, what is the cost, both to personalize this for our organization and for the continued use? There are three cost components. There's the configuration and setup costs. There's the cost to develop any new capabilities that you need. Then there's the ongoing enhancements that you might want to do, and then the annual fee for access. And Sarah, that varies by organization and how much work needs to be done in each of those different areas. So if you want to get more details on that, please reach out to me and I can provide some details based on the size of your program and the complexity of what you're trying to accomplish. All right. With that, unless there are more questions that come in the next few seconds, thank you all. And we hope to see you at the Natural Areas Conference in Fort Collins. Both Steve and I will be there. I am giving a talk the morning of the second day on data management practices. So not so much on TerraTrak, but just how to do effective data management in these complex types of environments we all work in. So hope to see you there, and please reach out to us if you want to pursue looking at TerraTrak in more depth. Thanks for the time today.
Sure. Just a couple things before we log off. First, yeah, as Brian and Steve mentioned, they're going to be at the conference in October. And we're very grateful for, they're also helping to support us at the conference. So we're grateful for that. Stop in, check them out. We just wanted to thank Brian and Steve and Sitka Tech for their participation today. The archive is going to be posted very soon. I try to get it up as soon as possible, as you guys know. Watch your email for more in this webinar series and mark your calendars for next month's webinar. If you're not on our email list, please go and sign up. And thanks to everybody. Thanks to Brian, thanks to Steve, thanks to all of the registrants today. We really appreciate it. Let me know what you think. We are always trying to improve this experience for people. So always let me know if you have any questions or comments. And with that, Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.